They're all old. I don't know why you bring back players from a team that didn't win you a championship. They got swept by the Tigers. They didn't even compete against Detroit. So if the Yankees want to bring back those old veterans, that's fine. Jays are bringing in new, fresh, young faces to go with a core that they already have. It's a good thing that's going on.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Yankees are going to be able to compete. Well, with the top two teams, I believe are going to be there, which are the Jays and the Rays.
And it seems the Red Sox are trying to buy their way guys. I mean, they just got Ryan Dempster, who's 35 years old, and they paid a good chunk of money for him. And the question is, who'd you rather have, Ryan Dempster or RA Dickey? They're paying Dempster close to what they're going to pay Dickey. 10 mil a year for Dickey, or what do you want? 8 mil for Dempster? Definitely Dickey, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do the Jays have the best rotation in the AL?
Yes.
No question.
No. Sorry, in my opinion, they have probably maybe the first or second best rotation in the league, because I don't think that you have another rotation in the league right now where you have, a hard throwing righty and then a knuckleballer and then a lefty and then a righty again and then another lefty.
It's funny because the thing I'm most excited about is not seeing R.A. Dickey. It's seeing Josh Johnson or Brandon Morrow go after him in the rotation. Because for teams that are going to face the Jays, they're going to go up against R.A. Dickey, who throws an 80-mile-per-hour knuckleball. And then the very next night, they're going to go up against Josh Johnson or Brandon Morrow, who throw 95, 96, and heat. And that's going to appear like 100, 102. So that's, I think, going to be the most exciting part to the Jays rotation.
And if you think, just on that note, in the same game, assuming that Dickey doesn't finish the game, and you have like Casey Janssen come in,
Sergio Santos,
their pitches are going to be like over 100 miles an hour to these players. In the same game, pitching with Dickey, they're not ready for it. They're not going to be ready for it. They're not going to be prepared. And that's going to be another dynamic to winning those games, assuming that Dickey's playing a bad game. I can't imagine he's going to be having too many bad games, depending on, if we can score runs or not. I say we is a relative term, but only because I'm a Jays fan. So
you're not on the team?
I hope so. I mean, I wish.
You're not the bat boy, no?
Hey, listen, I'd be the bat boy. Only if I got paid, though.
This seems like it's the first time since '93 where we can finally take this team seriously. It's always been this. It's always been we'll be better next year, or they're just mediocre at best. They're always winning, 75 to 80 games, and people say, oh, next year they'll win 80 to 85, but it just never happens. And I think Alex Anthopoulos has done a great job in developing the young core. He's got his fingerprints on this team. There's only one significant piece to this team where Alex Anthopoulos, it came from the JP Ricciardi era. Do you know the player? Can you think of it off the top of your head?
Ricky Romero?
Yes, Ricky Romero, who was taken as a first-round pick by JP Ricciardi. And Ricky Romero might be the number 5 starter. Who knows?
And last season, he was essentially the only starter.
And it was not a good season. Let's look at the other aspect, because obviously the other aspect of the trade, because obviously the Jays get their Cy Young pitcher, but the Mets get 2 of the top 3 prospects in the Jays system. Did the Jays have enough to give the Mets? I mean, they gave up Nicolino and Marisnik in the other deal, so is it a good thing? Would have you held back? Or is it the time to win now?
The time to win is now. That's without a question. You don't... this is a window that, especially for the Jays, may not be open very long. When
You're absolutely right.
When you look at teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Tigers, those are the teams that it doesn't matter for them. They can do this whenever they want to do it. It just so happens that at least for this coming season, maybe the next one, the tide's turning a little, and this is the point where Alex Anthopoulos thought, okay, this is our chance. We pulled off this trade. We have Jose Reyes, we have Jose Bautista, and we have Edwin Encarnacion in their prime.
And you're not even mentioning Brett Lawrie or Colby Rasmus.
Exactly.
J. Pierre and Sebia. You're not even mentioning those guys that are going to hit anywhere from 6 to 9 in the order. But there was all this talk about Travis d'Arnaud on how good he could be. It seems, I don't know about what you think, but it always seemed like J. Pierre and Sebia was going to be the catcher to go. That J. Pierre and Sebia was here for a year, or they were going to take it year-by-year basis, and when d'Arnaud was ready, they were going to bring d'Arnaud up and either move Aaron Sebia to first or trade him. And it's funny how the opposite happens. They develop a veteran team, and they trade the hot-hitting stud prospect in d'Arnaud to get Dickey. There's been multiple cases where I think you'll agree, you don't know what you have in prospects. They could be really good, or they might not turn out. I think we know what we're going to get in RA Dickey. We're going to get 15 to 20 wins, and we're going to get 3 steady years out of him. In the past, the Jays have traded, back in 93, they traded a young pitcher named Steve Carsey for Ricky Henderson. And Ricky Henderson, while he didn't have as big of a part as the Jays would have wished, they still won a World Series. Steve Carsey he turned into a relief pitcher. He had an injury-plagued career. So it worked out. But then again, you look at when the Jays, the year before, when they traded for David Cohn from the Mets, they gave up Jeff Kent. And Jeff Kent, you could argue, is a Hall of Famer. So it can go both ways. We don't know what's going to happen with d'Arnaud. We don't know what's going to happen with Syndergaard. But it makes sense for the Mets at least because they're not going anywhere. The Mets have nothing to lose, and the Jays have everything to gain. Nothing, no?
No, you're absolutely right. I can't say anything. There's, you take the gamble of trading these prospects that may be a year away or 2 years away or 5 years away. We're not waiting that long. We're done waiting. We've waited enough. I'm sure that's what Alex Anthopoulos was saying, at least.
Jays have waited 20 years.
Yeah, to even make the playoffs. So even if they don't win the World Series this year, don't get me wrong, saying for them to win the World Series is not exactly stretching the expectations here. They have a lineup right now that should get them at least to the World Series.
To the playoffs.
Well, I'm saying to the World Series because before I'd say they'd make to the playoffs. But with RA Dickey, assuming everything goes as planned with the way he plays, I can see them easily getting to the playoffs. Let's just put it that way.
Now, what if RA Dickey isn't as successful? What if d'Arnaud comes in next year for the Mets and he hits 300 with 30 home runs and Dickey gets hurt or he goes 8-12? Do you think Anthopoulos is all under scrutiny all of a sudden?
No.
No?
No, because if he does have a bad year and it doesn't turn out from that point of view, you have 6 other players that could have amazing seasons. Now, it could happen like what happened last season where everyone gets injured and the Jays lose 90 games or however many it was.
But at least Edwin Encarnacion hits 40 home runs.
Yeah, that's important. They won't make the playoffs, but Edwin Encarnacion doesn't. Would you rather have Edwin Encarnacion contribute less than 30 and Jose Bautista contribute less than 30 as well, for them to make the playoffs.
Of course.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
it's all balance in that lineup, hopefully.
Exactly, and that's what they're looking for. They don't care. Alex Anthopoulos does not care if Edwin Encarnacion has a 45 home run season if they don't make the playoffs. It's all about the playoffs. So, I'm sure he's saying that, it would be great if they score those home runs, but we need players that can hit, not just hit for yard. We need players that can hit and get on base, score some runs that are fast. And like Brett Lawrie is a perfect example. He's developing constantly every day, and I'm talking before the Miami Marlins trade. You want players who are fast, who can. I mean, he is younger and he's probably batting a little later in the order now, but he was batting first.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably hitting 4th or 5th for a lot of teams in the American League.
But last season he's batting 1st or 2nd for the Jays. Now that you have Jose Reyes,